Beautiful. To start our self-love session today, we're going to do some breathing. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And almost as if you are an appliance in the kitchen, we're going to imagine you can turn yourself off, turn yourself to standby mode. You're ready if you need to be, but now is your time to just relax. And sometimes we underestimate the power of rest as a form of, refreshing ourselves and then being ready. So noticing your breath for a moment. Notice as you receive your breath and as you release your breath. And just follow your breath with your awareness. You might notice that as you become aware of your breath, that it feels like your breath can deepen. Perhaps you might allow your breath to fall deep into your belly as you breathe in. You might notice the belly expanding just a little. And as you release the breath, you might notice that your skin will relax, your muscles of your face might relax. And we're just going to acknowledge for a moment the gift of our breath. Acknowledge that we didn't create our own breath. We somehow have this opportunity to be in this human form and breathing. And it's a blessing that we receive from the moment we're born. And as you tune into your breath, as you will become aware of your breath, just recognizing that you have been doing this since you were born as a baby. And it's the most easy thing for you to do. As a young child, as a toddler, you were breathing away and never even thought about it. As a young kid, most of the time, your breathing was always just there. So simple and so regular that it becomes something we don't even notice anymore. Recognize that you're also breathing in your teenage years, in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, 50s, beyond to this moment. And we hope and we're grateful for the breaths that are yet to come. And the breath to me is a very special thing because, of course, I am a voice coach. So I really recognize that as we breathe in, that's the fuel for our spoken words. And our spoken words are our creation, our manifestation. We are bringing our love and our creativity and our light to each moment. And as we speak, it creates a vibration of change around us. When we say, I will set up my own business, I'm going to do this. And when we say beautiful things and we say, I love you, we say kind things like, can I make you a cup of tea? And our voice is connected to our breath. So as you notice your breath, as you breathe in, recognize that that breath is a form of fuel for creativity. Allow your breath to drop into your belly as you breathe in, if you can. And just notice as you allow the breath. I always find it's important to recognize that we receive our breath more than take a breath. And the moments when we take a breath, when we're conscious of taking the breath, those are the moments when we are not at ease. Receiving the breath, releasing the breath has a lot of ease has a very natural feeling. And just acknowledging as well that we are part of nature, that we are creatures of nature. We are created by the Creator. We are creatures of the Creator. And then we become the Creator, co-creator. Just allowing your breath to drop into your belly as you receive your breath. And release the breath. And whatever it is that was on your mind earlier, you can just bring all of your energy back into this moment. Just invite all of you back right here. Be here. Be here. Be here now. Be here. Feeling into the physical form that you have, maybe noticing your feet on the ground. And as you notice your physical body, invite your body to relax. Invite your shoulders to relax. Invite any area of ache or pain to relax. Beautiful. It's so natural for you to breathe, and it's so natural for you to love life. As children, we spend all of our time just being happily there in the moment, enjoying things. We know what we like. We know what we would prefer to do. We're happy to tell someone, I don't want to do that, or I want to do this. And imagine now you're reconnecting to that almost childish, but beautifully innocent feeling of, I know what I like. I know what I want. And it's okay for me to ask for what I want. Dropping all of the expectations that we put on ourselves, dropping all of the ways that we modify what we want to suit others. What do you really want? And I'm going to invite you later today and in the next few days to ask yourself this question again. What do I really want? Do I want a nap? Do I want a cup of tea? Do I want to work? Do I want to stop a conversation and go and answer an email because it's on my mind? What is it you want? And how can we communicate what we would like, what we want in everyday moments? Just tuning into that feeling that it's okay for me to want what I want. It's okay. I'm giving you permission to want what you want. Can you give yourself permission to want what you want? Can you be an advocate for what you would like in life? Because you do make good choices and you do have great ideas, but sometimes we aren't following through because we're modifying ourselves for others or maybe a lack of confidence. So today, for the rest of our session, our self-love session, we're going to be talking about finding ways to express what we would like in life and how to maybe work with the energies around us, work with other people's interests and needs, but also balancing our own needs. So coming out of our practice of breathing for in a few moments, just taking a big, big breath, releasing it with a sigh, and bring your hands to your heart and just say, if you are willing, it's okay for me to be me. With those hands on your heart, it's okay for me to want what I want. And why is it becoming easier for me to express what I would really like in my everyday life? Why is it becoming easier for me to follow my instincts, my wishes, my intuition? And just reaffirming that what you would love is often very well balanced with what others would need. It isn't a case of what you need goes against someone. Usually what we would want benefits others in many ways. So just acknowledging that for a moment. And then coming out of our practice, we're going to rub our hands together. create a little bit of heat, and we're just going to tap our bodies wherever you'd like, your head, your shoulders, your legs, just to bring yourself back into your physical body and coming back into the room. Beautiful. Beautiful. So my format today, and very welcome, Lisa. Great to have you here. I have a little plan in
Hello.
mind. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I hope you like that little meditation.
Yes, thank you. I missed part of it. Almost forgot about today. I'm trying to get in the hang of remembering this one. Too
Yes, I'm
many
gonna
things to
going
remember.
forward. I'll be doing these once a month at least. Usually the first Monday of the month.
Oh, okay. Sounds
So
good. I
any
thought Mary was
feedback?
going to say hi, but
Any any feedback from the meditation, John? That feel good? You'll need to unmute because I had muted you a few moments ago. Sorry.
There we go. Okay. Yes, centering and relaxing. It is, I definitely had a bit of a tension headache. I've got something going on this evening I'm preparing for. So it allowed me to just kind of sit in the moment for a second and let some things go. Not
There
that.
you go. Love it. Very good. So, and welcome, Marilyn. I'm not sure if we've met in person before. You're very, very welcome here today. We've just done a little short meditation, and I can send you the recording for that, just a bit of breathing if you'd like. If you might need your email address, so you could pop that in the chat, or you can let me know. I might find you. You're obviously in my system somewhere, but um, today I'm going to talk about showing ourselves self-love through communication in conversation. Sometimes when someone asks us a question, it can feel like, okay, this is difficult. This is, what do I say? Right? What do I say next? So just wanted to give a few ideas, and I'm very open to hearing your ideas, because I feel like we can share together strategies that help us to protect our boundaries in conversations. So, just going to give an example of something so that you know what I'm talking about. So, let's say someone asks you, "Oh, how is business?" Right? Every now and again, someone will say, a question that just feels like it's so big, or it's maybe a touchy subject, depending on what's going on with you that day. How do you say something to that kindly, but also putting a boundary there? So I have a few ideas. I was just wondering, John has been in business for a long time. John, do you ever feel like people ask you an inappropriate question like that? And what would you normally say?
Yeah, it depends on, again, I've been in sales and, mostly on the selling side of the table type of thing. So you're always trying to be cognizant of being respectful no matter what you say, but to push someone along to kind of think, you ask a lot of questions. You kind of ask, answer questions with questions for further clarification. Okay, so somebody says to me, so how's business? Pretty good in my mind. What were you thinking about? What in what terms? Okay, just to get them to, are they just being nice, just saying a silly statement, or do they really want to know something about your business? So that's the way I would do it. Seems to
I
work well.
love it.
Hmm.
That was one of mine as well.
Okay.
So yes, so it's almost like, what do you really want to know about? So do you really want to hear about that, or what would you like to know?
Hmm.
Yeah. And I like that you kind of preempt it as well with, it's good in my mind. I mean, I'm happy right now with how things are going. It's nice and broad, and it kind of shows your confidence in your business, because
Hmm.
every business has, and every situation has its challenges.
Right.
And you don't really want to go into, if someone says, how's business? You don't want to kind of tell them, oh my God, I'm having a problem with a vendor, or, oh, this
Hmm.
one sales call didn't go great. Like, you can't go into details like that when you're a
Hmm.
business person. And maybe there's certain people you can do that with, but most people know.
Right.
So, I love that one. So good in my mind. What is it you really wanted to know about? I
Hmm.
love that. Yeah. So the ones I have here is, do you really want to hear about it? What would you like to know? Or do you want the long or the short story? I thought that was a good one.
That's
So I have a friend who is a natural storyteller and loves talking about things. But then she'll get weird responses if she kind of goes into detail about something that, they didn't really want that answer. So sometimes we need to be able to do that. Lisa or Marilyn, if you have any ideas on things, on ways, or any question, or any even a situation that you found difficult to deal with, if you have an example of something. Lisa?
Yes, and actually what John just said, this was more in a positive thing, and this is kind of when someone brings you a negative question, it's maybe too personal.
Mm-hmm.
I have always had a hard time with that. So I tried to figure out, how do I deal with people asking something that I don't feel like is really their business. And a friend of mine once said, when I said I was having trouble with that, and this was years ago, he said, just ask them back a question and say, why do you ask? And then it puts the ball in their court, and they have to say why they think they should know about your personal business. Like, one was, how much money are you making, or how much do you make a year? Those types of things, you know.
Yeah.
So felt like that really helped me a lot, because I kind of felt like I had to give more information than I really had to give,
Mm.
in that
Oh,
sense.
that's,
So it's a little
yeah.
opposite of what he was saying, but it also helped me a lot just in dealing with people.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same answer in one way. It's like, it's a question.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why do you ask? I
So
like
you can
that.
do it
Have you
in
used
make
that
it a
then? So,
positive thing, or to find out why they are, intruding on your personal business. I think
yeah.
it could be used either way, to end in a positive result for you.
Yeah. Yeah. This idea of answering a question with a question is a really useful thing in a situation like this. So I had a few deflecting with a question. So you
Mhm.
have a question, you could deflect with a question that's, completely different. So here was one,
Yeah.
base it on the weather. So, or you could say, oh wow, gosh, big question. Isn't this a beautiful day today? Like a
Hmm.
real deflect, not always possible, depends on the question, of course.
Hmm.
Um, and when you throw the question back to them, oh, I'm doing great. How much are you making?
Right.
You could go all the way there. So there's ways that you can postpone a
I like
question
that.
as well. So if
Hmm.
somebody asks you a question that, maybe it is of interest to them, you can, maybe it's somebody that's supposed to help you with your finances or something. You could
Right.
say, can I get back to you on that? Or I prefer not to
Yeah.
talk about that today.
Or at
Um,
least you might find out why they want to know. Are they really, is there a reason that's a valid reason?
yes.
Or are they
Yeah,
just being nosy?
exactly. Why do you ask?
Yeah,
I'll write
I
that on my list of
love that one.
questions here.
It's
And
helped
then
me
is it,
tremendously.
yes, exactly. It's sweet. It's
And then
sweet as
it
well.
gives me a minute to kind of take in what they're saying and analyze, like, where are they coming from? And then when
Yeah,
they answer that question, then you have a little bit more information, so that you don't overreact, or that, maybe they have a legitimate reason for wanting to know.
yeah,
Maybe they want to get into your business, your actual, if you're doing a business.
yeah. And
Hard
it
to
can
say,
be
but
really hard. Sometimes some questions take us aback.
mhm,
Like someone could ask you a question that's, it could maybe on a different day it wouldn't take you back. Maybe they'll tune into something like, are you sensitive about your weight, say for instance, which would be really
mhm.
like a harsh one. But they
Had
could
that
ask you
plenty of
something like
times.
maybe one day of the week you would be like, get over yourself, or you
Mhm,
it wouldn't bother you, but then you might be going through a phase of your life where it is bothering you. So when that you get
mhm,
asked a question like that and it's like taking you aback, to be
mhm.
able to stay in the moment and breathe, because
Mhm.
you have to find a way to, if you haven't already got a comeback phrase, if you haven't prepared something and
Right.
you don't know what to say, then being present is going to help you have a moment. So you're going to
Mhm,
breathe, you're going to go, and then you could do why do you ask that question?
mhm,
And you could even say, gosh, that's a personal question. Why do
mhm.
you ask? maybe they are also have that a similar issue going on, and they want reassurance,
Mhm.
or they're trying to connect with us in some way. So I have a few
Yeah.
phrases here. This I like these ones, but I like to use this phrase, if it's okay with you, is kind of a nice way to kind of go, it's like a permission. We're asking permission.
Mhm.
If it's okay with you, I'd prefer not to talk about that. If it's okay
Mhm.
with you, I'd rather not get into that subject right now. Or if it's okay with you, that's a little too personal, but I'd love to hear about, your kids or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know, kind of then you're deflecting them back to that. So I love that. That's really good, Lisa.
Mhm.
And you found that useful. You've used it, have you?
Oh, yeah, it kind of saved me from so many uncomfortable situations because I just felt like I didn't know what to say when people felt intrusive
Yeah.
with questions. And I just thought, how do I deal with this? And I was, this was 25 years ago or more, and I felt like maybe 30. I just felt like wasn't good at articulating my feelings or my thoughts and feelings to people, especially when I felt being a little intrusive.
Yeah.
So it was like just the simplest thing, just a question. You just throw the question back and then they have to answer you. And then, if they don't have a legitimate reason for it, then you can kind of just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
even have to really acknowledge it if they don't have a good reason.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and then move on.
Nice.
You know.
Well,
Anyway,
anyway,
that's a good one.
one of the ones I've kind of shared with someone is, about bean dipping. So this came from a money coach that would have people ask her about her business, and she would just say, "Oh, great. Have you tried the bean dip?" So really, especially if you're in a social circumstance and,
Uh-huh.
they're being really nosy or something. So you
Hmm.
can say something short like, great. Have you enjoyed the boat ride we had earlier? Or,
Yeah.
so just a little bit of a
Anything.
kind of
Yeah.
a deflection. I always think of these as like
Deflect.
ninja moves, where we're kind of, you see the energy coming at you, and you kind of whoosh, let it
Right.
flow
But
past.
it helps to have something ahead of time in mind because, I don't always come up with things quick. Sometimes I do, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just like,
Yeah.
and feel like I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think, why do I feel like I have to have an answer for these personal questions? So,
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
was explaining this to someone in my mantra meditation class, and she said that she used it like a few days earlier. Someone asked an inappropriate question about her. Oh, what did you do today? Right? Asking basically for all the intimate details of whether she was working or whether she had time off, and da, 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 and she didn't want to get into it. She just said, "Oh, isn't this pontoon amazing?" Because they were out on a boat.
Mhm.
So, and it worked. So
Mhm.
she was really pleased.
Yeah.
Um, Marilyn, I know you may or may not want to talk today, but if you have anything you'd like to contribute, we'd love to hear it. And if not, I have one other um phrase that I wanted to share with you guys, which is about handling situations where someone has hurt our feelings. So
Mm.
when a question could hurt our feelings. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because
Yes.
and it's very hard to know what to say. In my family, no one acknowledged anyone's feelings. Okay. What would happen would be someone's feelings would be hurt and a door would slam. Okay. And that person would leave the room, and I mean, my sister would ignore me for 3 days. So that would be, and I would know that I had been bad and I'd feel bad about it, but I'd never really understand it deeply. And it was always I always found it very hard because I'm a talker, and generally I like to talk things
Me
through, but
too.
of course I didn't know how to have that conversation. So a flatmate of mine in Ireland said to me one day, Aideen, that actually hurt my feelings. Ta-da, the light came on. I went, okay, now I know that it's okay to have feelings. And I know I have a phrase. Like that phrase is in my head forever.
Mhm.
That actually, and the way she said it, somewhat
Mhm.
kind, she said, Aideen, that actually hurt my feelings.
Mm.
So she didn't like yell, she didn't get
Mhm.
angry. She was like from a hurt perspective saying
Mhm.
that wasn't nice, Aideen. And I am so glad she did that time. I really needed to I really needed that skill, and I needed to know that I could even do that myself.
Yeah.
So do you have any examples like that? How you might, yeah,
This
John,
is
go ahead.
it's so funny listening to you because I'm of Irish heritage as well, and my mother was Polish and German, so kind of these stoic nationalities, right? And in my house, there's 7 kids. Okay, we were always taught respect. We were taught if the phone rang, okay, you were to pick it up and say hello, Noonan residents, and if they asked for somebody, you placed it down and you walked the house to see where they were. There was no screaming. There was no, you know. And then I start dating my wife, who's Italian, and everything's just flowing. The emotions are flowing. And, I remember the phone rings one day and was like, yeah, hold on. It was like, Bobby, pick up the phone. They're just like, I'm like, oh my God, everybody's screaming. And then I saw them get really angry, 2 of the brothers at dinner, to the point where I thought they were going to stand up and start throwing punches, and they just talked it out. You're an idiot. I don't like when you talk like that. What do you say something like that for? Blah, 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 blah. All right, fine. Pass the bread. And boom, it was over. So probably, I don't know if it's more healthy or not. The offense at the beginning is takes you back when they're that honest and that bold at the front end. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, I've held my tongue much more than I probably should have through my younger life.
yeah,
Um, and it's, part of the reason we're trying to find our voice in certain, even though I'm out there, I was the youngest, I was always, vocal and etc. But it was hard to tell someone they hurt your feelings or anything like that. You just didn't do that. There was like, no, no, we're not going to talk about that. There was a lot of, we're not going to talk about that. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
No, I
so,
love that. I love that. It's amazing. Like to see that contrast.
mhm.
So I was chatting with a client, and she's might be, has a new friend, and she felt like, she wanted to talk about something, but she didn't say anything because she grew up with brothers and she learned not to try to say things. And then when she changed the conversation a little bit, he said, "You're not listening to me." And she's like, "What?" I mean, I could have said, "You're not listening to me" earlier, but I didn't, right? So sometimes we can take the cue from the other person if they're willing to be direct with you and feel like it's okay for me to just be honest in the moment,
Yeah.
then maybe you can be direct back. Um, but also you can say, "Oh my gosh, you're so direct in how you talk. I'm not used to that." Right?
Oh,
Because
that's good.
it's because that can feel like an attack if we're not
Yeah.
used to people being direct.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what
So,
I'm still having trouble with, and had a had a situation recently, um, which I think I told you some about it, but was organizing the Joni Mitchell tribute for Wheatland Festival, and 2 years ago I had made the plan, the goal for in 5 years I was going to do it. It was my goal. Was ready to go ahead and submit the application, but then I saw that one of my good friends that I had invited to perform at my Joni Mitchell tribute was already performing workshops at the festival. And I think I felt like, even though I knew I could do it, I thought, oh, she's got her foot in the door. Maybe she can submit the application. It'd be easier. She's a good friend. We'll co host it together. She'll get us in. So I thought once I get in, then it'll be, I'll be able to do more with it. So I went to her with the idea. She ended up, took her several months, but she submitted the idea. We ended up doing a sing along, which was not my vision, that was her vision. When I went to her, I told her, this is my dream. I didn't just say it was a goal. I said, this is my dream to have this at the festival. So after the festival, and she got a credit, I didn't get a credit. I didn't meet anyone. I didn't, she didn't introduce me to the people that were in charge. I just felt like, okay, I kind of made a mistake because I put the ball in her court and I let her go with it. So she now, I said, for next year, I'm going to submit an application for the kind of Joni Mitchell tribute that I do, where there's a series of performers.
mhm.
And she said, oh, well, they want to have the sing along. You mentioned the sing along again. And I said, well, that's fine if you want to do that. But remember, when I told you, when I brought this idea to you, that was my goal. That I said that was my dream. She said, well, I don't know if they're going to go for that. So that hurt my feelings. I
Mm-hmm.
was already a little bit feeling like I made a mistake, but that hurt my feelings when she said, I don't know if they'll go for that when it was my idea that I presented to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I did submit the application. She did not submit the application at all. And then when she found out, because they found out that I was doing the application by myself and I was going to invite her in the end, top person at Wheatland put her in on it without telling me, didn't tell her what I was doing. And she said to me, that hurt my feelings. She actually got
Yeah.
very angry first. She got very
Yeah.
angry. And then she said, that hurt my feelings that you are doing this without me now. And I said, well, wait a minute, let's back up. I came to you with the idea, asked you if you would help me with my idea by submitting the application since you were in. So I didn't, because it was very heated discussion, a lot of stuff coming from her that I was trying to take in and trying to be forgiving because we have to work together now. But I do feel like I didn't say, I kind of did, but I didn't actually say you hurt my feelings when you did
Yes.
this, when you shot down my idea that I brought to you. So I feel like that conversation has to happen, but I
Yeah.
also felt like it got so heated that I need to wait until it's over, then say, there was a lot that happened and maybe we should discuss, some of the things and the fact that when you said it hurt your feelings, you weren't aware how much what you said initially hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
I
we
just
find
felt
out.
like it wasn't the right time to bring it up,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of holding on to that. So I feel like I do need to have that conversation with her. And it is something that I do have issue with
Exactly.
still.
So when we hold back and we're not honest,
Hmm.
then it can it can become a problem. So
I know,
you're gonna
I
have to
know.
deal with her
And I
who's
feel
got
like
that.
she should know this. Like she's an intelligent person. She should know that this is how it happened. And
No,
she's
but
like
nobody,
changing the
people,
narrative.
people presume things and they
Yes.
presume what feels easiest to them to presume. So
Yep.
unless you tell someone that hurt my feelings, they will presume you're okay.
Well, and that's very true. And the other thing in this situation is that she got paid quite a bit of money for the gig we did, the sing along that I
Yeah.
asked her to submit. I didn't get any of that money. I got a free ticket to get in. Um, I could say that hurt my feelings, but to me, it wasn't about the money. But I felt like if I was the one in charge, I would have split it with her evenly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did feel like that was my mistake for putting the ball in her court. I do feel like now that that's all is said and done, I do need to address when it's done because I don't want to have a problem before we have to work together. It has to
Yeah.
go smoothly. So when it's done, I think that I want to say, let's sit down and have a little chat about
I'd
something.
love to talk to you about this a little more, Lisa, after the class, maybe,
Yeah,
so that you really have a game plan for that conversation.
yeah.
Because it's like, people are their doorways for us sometimes.
Hmm.
Sometimes you meet someone and they have the in that you don't have.
Right.
But at the same time, I always prefer not to feel like there's a dynamic. Okay, and then you don't. So
Hmm.
therefore, you don't get paid, and therefore I do get paid.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of weird kind of higher lower dynamic, and so
Right.
that'll take a few key phrases and a lot of honesty and vulnerability to
Hmm.
work through. So I'd love to talk to you about it a little more. Any
Yeah.
advice from John? What do you think?
Those things are so personal. It's hard to
Yeah.
give someone direct
Complicated.
advice and say now because the easy advice is just address the elephant in the room.
Hmm.
But to your point, if you're already engaged, you've got to finish something with this person or whatever, and
Yeah.
this may jeopardize the whole thing.
Yeah.
I would say I would want to address it now, and I try
I
to do
know.
that myself, but I also know in my heart of hearts, sometimes I just delay for, is it worth it? I'll just suck it up for
Right.
now. It's not that
My
important. Let's get this thing done. Let's
mhm.
make it happen for what it needs to be. And if I need to address it again later, I'll address it again later. But I don't know.
Right, and
It's
my
it's a tough.
other fear is that they've worked with her directly, they haven't worked with me. And
Mhm,
I've had
mhm,
situations in the past where I've had issues that are not even related to this type of thing, but where somebody knows maybe the boss or the situation that's happening and they don't know you, and then you come with information that's maybe helpful and you end up getting fired because they don't trust you, they know them, or different
mhm,
things have happened. So you have to be careful with that dynamic when it's like she's got the in already. I'm the one that let her do that.
Yeah,
mhm,
So
yeah.
it was a learning experience though. And I
yeah,
feel like what I really learned is why didn't I feel, even I'd already made up my mind I was going to do it. I was going to do it. I had the plan to do it. I could have done it on my own. Could have got turned down possibly, but I felt like I had a good idea. But for some reason, I saw an easier way. I decided to go with the easier way with someone else's help rather than relying on myself.
Mhm,
Just
mhm,
do it. Then I would have been in control of my own vision.
mhm.
right.
So, but
And
I'm
then
taking that back and now I've
mhm.
learned that I'm not going to do that again.
Something that comes to mind in the sales world that I live in, because I help companies that are struggling with sales, is the salesperson that gets connected with a non-decision maker at a very low level, right? They
Mhm.
want to pursue business with a client. They end up with somebody at a very low level and discover it later when they're getting a lot of pushback, like, well, I don't really make this decision, so you just give me everything and I'm going to push it up. Now you
Mhm.
can't jump over them. That's just the
Yeah,
kiss of death. You can't call their boss and say, "Oh,
right.
I realized I was dealing with your underling, and you're the one I really have to deal with." You just can't do that.
I know, and I'm in
Um,
that situation now.
yeah, exactly. So, the instruction is
Mhm.
always just to continue to work with that person to try
Yep.
to make them feel that you're going to, we kind of say in the sales world, there's either two things you can be for somebody. You are either their go to person because you're so
Mhm.
good at what you do. I know if I give it to Lisa, it gets done. And that's why I
Mhm.
love doing business with Lisa. Or, secondly, you're going to do something so new, so unique, so exciting that I may get promoted because of it, right? I can bring this to
Right.
my boss and go, look what I decided to do and look how great this is. So it's kind of one or
Mhm.
the other. You kind of, and that can change, even with that person. But getting stuck at that low level is the hardest thing. And that's why,
Mhm.
once you made the mistake, you just got to live with it, is what I
Yeah.
found. Um, Trying
Mhm.
to jump over them, and you just have to ingratiate them, constantly ask for their ideas, constantly ask for that invitation. Boy, it'd be really great. I know sometimes things get lost in translation. Is
Yeah.
there any way I can come with you to speak to your boss or the committee or whatever?
Mhm.
Because I really want to try to get this out and really understand what's in their head. So
Yeah.
always kind of coming at it from I want to help, I want to help,
Mhm.
which should be your true thought anyway. But you're just trying to get to that next step, to that person that's gonna,
Yeah.
is gonna make the decision. So anyway, for what
Mhm.
that's worth.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's really important because I was thinking as well how when someone does give you a help, even though it was tainted because you felt left out,
Mhm.
um, that they kind of need that acknowledgement or that respect or that gratitude that would be due. But with, at the same time, understanding that you have value in your own right. And sometimes our having someone that's a helper is
Mhm.
important. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten, maybe it wouldn't have been accepted as without her help that first time. You don't really know.
It's
It would
true.
be interesting to know why the
Mhm.
organizers tagged her back into something that you hadn't mentioned her for, and
Right.
like to kind of clarify, is that because you would prefer it to be a sing along? Is that because you think I need to be managed in some way, or I don't
Mhm.
know how you would phrase that, but like
I
what John
did
is saying.
when I put in the application, I felt like I didn't wanna not mention I did the tribute with her,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to say I was even a co-host because my name wasn't even on thing and I didn't get paid. So I was
Yeah.
confused, like, am I even involved in this at all?
Yeah.
So what I said is after my whole entire explanation of what it would be, I put at the end, also last year I joined my friend for the Joni Mitchell sing along. I just said I joined. Now I felt like I did more than that, but I thought if I say, "Oh, want all the credit for I gave her the idea," it's gonna come across maybe not good to them because they don't know me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought I haven't met them in person, and those are some of the things I do want to do. So
Yeah.
to get to
How
know
comfortable would you
those
be
people a little better.
saying to her, I'm sorry that that hurt your feelings?
Um, I mean, I could say it, but I think there's a but in there. I'm sorry I
So
hurt your feelings, but the way
no,
that
but
you
no,
attacked,
you can't. Lisa, unfortunately, when we say
yeah,
sorry for something, we can't put
yeah.
a but. So,
But I don't really feel that, so I don't know that I can say it 100% and be
so
truthful
that's why we should have a conversation
because
first,
yeah,
because
because she
whatever
was
the,
very hostile towards me.
yeah, whatever it was that happened before, you're going to have to
Mhm.
find a way to be at peace with that within yourself
Right.
and start fresh. Because
That's why I want to
there's a
wait till
strong
after.
chance that she won't get what happened last year. There's a,
Yeah.
you can't not go ahead with this project. That's why John is saying, look, maybe you don't want to deal with this at all. Maybe you kind of
Oh
just
no,
going to go ahead.
I just don't want to discuss the details of problem until it's over
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I feel like if you heard some of the things she actually said, and it was mostly we've been to your tribute 3 times, you have a lot of singers that aren't even very good. I mean, it was very, very low blows.
yeah.
Um,
We need to
things,
talk about this outside of this class, Lisa,
yeah,
so that you can kind of go in a little bit deeper.
okay,
Yeah. So take a breath.
okay. It's all good. I'm excited about it and I
Yeah.
have it all set up, so I think
Yeah.
it's going to
Take a
be
breath.
fine.
Take a breath. I'm inviting you. Take a breath.
Mm,
That you have value on your own.
mhm.
What's I was talking to someone, I'm still standing.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
I love
bounce
that
back,
song.
you land on your feet, you're still standing, all good. So we're coming up to the end of today's session. Normally we do a 30, 45 minute, sometimes an hour, depends on how many people are here, but I'm feeling like we can wind things up now. Marilyn, I know you weren't able to come on camera. Is there anything you wanted to ask? You can pop anything in the chat. Any question? So the one thing I will say before we go is no matter if you're talking to the Pope or you're talking to the President of the USA, in terms of your intrinsic value as a human being, you are not less than someone else. And when we know that deep in our hearts, we can't be pushed around. We can't, things aren't, it's not as easy for us to just accept everything. We have our own minds and situations. However, and this is within, say, I do mantra meditation and I have a teacher. There is so much beauty to acknowledging someone being a step ahead. There's so much beauty to honoring our elders or our boss and giving them whatever respect we can give them, in whatever way we feel we can. And that is something we have to find a balance for. Do we say your honor to the judge? Yes, because we want to respect that title. We want to respect that, wisdom and that journey that person's been on. Whether we think they're the best judge in the world or not, we're going to have to use those kinds of terms. But deep down within yourself, to know, I am as valuable, I am worthwhile. And when we see ourselves as lower and we don't have confidence, that's when we get into more difficulties because we're trying to step a certain way to get a result that maybe we're going in the roundabout way, like Lisa's example. So how do we reconnect to knowing that you're fantastic, that you're great, that you have value, And that's one of the reasons why I wrote my little book, Discover Your True Value. And I recommend doing gratitude exercises like, I'm glad I stood up for myself today. Or I'm happy that I made a sale today, or I'm so happy that the sun was shining today. To start to relate in your mind that you are okay, to reassure yourself. Sometimes I think about this as almost like self-parenting, right? Sometimes our parents don't give us a lot of reassurance, don't tell you that you're good at, something. They're just, it's a laissez-faire parenting approach. That's what my parents had anyway. So nobody told me that I was good at things. Nobody was like, oh, oh, that's great, Aideen, and that's maybe my culture that I come from as well. But sometimes we need to hear that in your own mind, reminding yourself, I've done this before, I am good at this, and I have a certain style of maybe running my event, or I have a certain way of running my business that I'm actually really happy with. There's a reason why I do it this way. And maybe you might need to explain it. Maybe you might need to clarify things for others. Like, for instance, when I run a singing class, I don't want people to be all good singers, and I'm not expecting people to have a huge jump and change in their quality of their voice in a short amount of time. For me, participation is the key. Participation is what I really aim for. So I have to make sure that the people who are coming to the class understand that that's what I do, set an expectation for that. So sometimes we're treading lightly, but understanding that if you can explain why you do something and you have a good reason, most people are going to be accepting of that and be happy. I'd love to hear a few words from each of you to wind things off. What advice would you give someone else who was feeling maybe, that kind of problem? Like, what would you say to someone that is worried about expressing themselves? Lisa?
Well, it took me years to be able to express myself, and clearly I'm still having some issues, but I do have a reason, like I said, for that. I feel like it would be better to wait on this particular one. So I will address it. I feel like, you can go many years through your life not being able to do it, and you just have to find that one thing. And for me, it was that one question that made things so much easier. If you can just think about ahead of time what situations might come up and what has made you uncomfortable in the past and how could I have handled it better, and then maybe you can think of a way to do that. Right.
Yeah, very good.
Mhm.
John?
Something just kind of popped in my head too, and I struggled one time with a head of operations that I worked with all the time, constantly defending themselves. It would never ever admit fault. Okay, but it's not our fault. It's not our fault. Blah, 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 whether it was or it wasn't, it was difficult for me to kind of work with this person, and he wouldn't get on the phone with clients, or I didn't want him on the phone with clients because again he would just get defensive, which I knew was going to be a terrible reaction. And then I don't know what hit me. And we just talked about how, Lisa, how you changed the words there a little bit for yourself. I said to him, I said, okay, how about this? Instead of saying I'm sorry, which is what I'd prefer you say if you were at fault, how about you just say, boy, I'm really sorry that this happened. How can we move forward? How can we move forward together? I'm really sorry this happened. You didn't admit any guilt. Okay. You didn't claim it was your fault. All right. But you're acknowledging that there's an issue here. So, we're sorry that this happened. How can we move forward? So it's just, I don't know, something thought that I had to throw in there that, sometimes something as simple as changing a little bit of what the way you say it can really
Yes,
open a conversation.
I love that. I'm sorry this happened, rather than saying, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. For instance, for
Correct.
Lisa, I'm
Right.
sorry that this happened.
Right. Even
I
even that.
love that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry your feelings are hurt. Again, you didn't admit it. You just said, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt. And that
I
little
love that.
change made this guy, he was like, that's ridiculous. And then I got him on a phone with a client, and they were, I could tell it was going to get cantankerous and contentious. And all of a sudden he just said, you know what? Okay. I'm sorry this happened. Let's talk about how we fix it. And the guy said, great. That's all I want to do. And the whole conversation changed. Okay. It wasn't about
Yay.
fault or issue or whatever. I guess they thought they got an apology, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you don't think you need to offer one, it's a way to say it. But
Yeah, but it's nice when someone acknowledges
right.
that there's a problem and that we're in it together, you
Exactly.
know?
I'm sorry that we're in this position. I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that we have to have this conversation. Okay. However, I want to talk about how we can correct it, move forward, advance, make things better, whatever the situation is.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I
Oh,
just had
so
another,
happy.
sorry, I just had another thought though, something that I feel like I could say to my friend.
Hmm.
I'm trying to understand your feelings, how your feelings were hurt. If you could try to understand my feelings were also hurt.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be a good phrase to use.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand you. Could you try to understand my situation?
Yeah. Offer first. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Be the go giver.
'Cause I
Give
am
first.
trying.
Offer. Yep.
It's
Yep.
not a lie. I'm
Yeah, I
trying.
really want to understand how I hurt you or upset you,
Yeah.
because obviously it came my way too. And, I want to make this right,
Uh-huh.
and just talk about making things right. I think is
Yeah.
what people want
Exactly.
to hear too. Hmm.
And one thing that I think is a really important point is that when someone says something, it's just a talking point for further disentangling of the situation. Like sometimes we feel
Mhm.
like when someone makes a statement or they ask a certain question that that is it and that there is no, like say someone says, "Do you want a cup of tea?" When you don't want tea, you want ice cream or something. Sometimes it's hard for us to go, actually, da 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 da. I don't mind tea, but I would also prefer this.
Mhm.
So to kind of see every conversation as a negotiation that you can actually find ways for your value to be felt and for your feelings to be heard and for you to be honored in that situation too. And sometimes a thank you at the beginning of a conversation can make the world of a difference. Look, thank you for what you did for me
Mhm.
last year. And then somehow we can move forward with
Yes.
that. So I hope all that is useful. If you're watching the recording or you have anything you'd like to comment on or mention to me, please send me an email. Thank you to everybody who's here live at our self-love. I
You.
do these once a month, so you might get an email to come again. And I have a little course and my book, my self-love book, Discover Your True Value, is going to be out in a paperback version in the next couple of months and an audio version. So these are simple things. Like I'm not saying it's rocket science. I'm not saying I know it all. Like I'm so happy John was here. John, after being in business for like many decades, had some great advice that I think we all need to hear. And sometimes when we hear it from a different industry perspective or a different, other person's perspective, it's like, oh yeah, I get it now. So I really feel like coming together like this is useful and it can kind of spark understanding that we need because we have to evolve who we were when that happened last year, Lisa. You need to be able to evolve beyond that somehow. You're as a person,
Mhm.
not doing that again, right? Not having that issue
Well
come up quite the same
well,
way.
yes, and I do think that I did was a very valuable lesson because I learned that what I actually did was I put my vision and my dream in someone else's hand. I didn't discuss it ahead of time what my vision was and how she would handle that situation. So there should have been some questions before I threw the ball in her court.
Yeah.
I should have
Y-
said, if I was to ask you to do this, how would you envision that? Because this is what I would like.
Yeah.
And
Or
then
perhaps it would have
see.
been more, would you help me to fill out the application? You know,
Exactly. Maybe I could have just said, I'm going to fill out the application. Could I put you down as a co-host? That
yeah.
might have been a really better idea, but I didn't think it through. I did it on the spur of the moment. And sometimes, when you make a quick decision, it's not always the best. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's a learning situation. I am trying to learn to just take a minute and breathe and think through before I present my idea to someone.
Hmm.
Just think it through a little bit longer.
Yeah. That
What do
that
I
thing you
really
just
want
said,
out of this?
breathe. Just
Mhm.
breathe in the moment.
Exactly.
And somehow you'll come up with good ideas. So thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, John, for being here.
You.
Um, Great pleasure. Mary and Lisa are actually my cousins.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's great
John
to have you.
Lennon.
I
John
was telling
Lennon is
her
coming
about
in.
the self-love aspect of it. So she had come up with lyrics to All You Need Is Love, which maybe she can do in the singing class one of these
I
days.
love it. I love it.
Exactly. We'll do singing class on Wednesday.
Yes,
So looking
and
forward
it's
to hearing
amazing.
that. Now that
Okay.
you've picked
Highly
the song as
recommend.
well, it's good. I remember
Yes,
that album
we're
cover.
Beatles
that one,
fans.
I've got that in my attic.
Yeah,
Many others, with
we
many others.
we
Well,
found
John,
out
you
they're
better get
having.
your records down and start listening to them again.
Oh, I do. I've
Oh.
got a turntable. I went
Oh,
back to it.
good.
Yeah.
Sorry, when you said attic, I was imagining, the dusty attic with things in
Oh,
boxes. So you
yeah.
like
I
have a
have my
random.
whole collection. I mean, entire
Yeah.
collection up there, which I guess I'm leaving for my kids, but we'll see.
But make sure you enjoy it as much as you can before you leave them to anybody else.
Exactly.
Alrighty, guys. Take
All right.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Talk to you next
Have a
time.
great
Thanks for
day.
joining.
Have a great
Bye.
week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.